Okay, this talk is for forest management, and it's in regards to forest certification. And it's something that's very important now around the world, is forest certification. What I want to do is put some meat behind that and explain what the heck it means and how does it apply to Canadian forestry. So the reason that the whole process started was that buyers of wood and wood products, pulp, panel products, dimensional lumber, and so on, want environmental guarantees that the products they are purchasing is coming from forests that are sustainable, well managed, and will be around for the future. So why certification? One of the key things is, excuse me, I'm just trying to organize this here so that it works. There we go. One of the key things is that for certification, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the following statement is true. Concern over diminishing natural resources and the state of environment in general has raised public and media attention around the world, and that is very, very much the case. So people want to know if the harvested areas are being regenerated, if wildlife habitat is being protected, and if biodiversity is being maintained in that forest. And many products nowadays have some kind of indicator that they are environmentally green, and all these products you see here are just a small example of that. So for their part, the buyers want to show their customers and the public that they're making responsible purchasing decisions. So the buyers meaning the buyers of wood from forest companies. In a global market where a customer can be thousands of miles away, providing evidence of well-managed forests is increasingly being done through independent third-party certification. In other words, the auditor cannot be influenced by the company because they're not on the payroll or such. And the other element is chain of custody. This is and what chain of custody is, and we'll explain in further detail, means that from where the tree is harvested and all the individuals who handle that wood all the way down to eventually to the retailer, let's say at Home Depot or the Home Building Center, are treating that process as an environmentally green process. So that is called the chain of custody, owning that product all the way through the chain until it gets to the consumer. Now there's the process of chain of custody and how it works. Okay, so how does the chain of custody work? Provides, as I stated, a guarantee that everything along the way was done the best possible way to ensure it is environmentally green. I think I have here, so for example, let's just take a look at these. If you buy paper, you will see these kind of symbols here. This is this check mark and tree is to indicate that it's from well-managed forests, as you can see down below. Okay, so it's from well-managed forest. The other type of code is that it's this check mark and tree and then this recycled badge, and what that's implying is it comes from mixed sources, and the whole intent is that recycled wood and fiber is included, but in a well-managed approach. The companies are. And the last one is that it's 100% recycled. That's the difference in these two. And it's recycled, supporting responsible use of forest resources. In other words, that it's done about creating pollution. And I believe this here will show you let's see if this chain of custody. So when you go in to this website here, you will see how a chain of custody works. And the idea is that you certify a healthy forest, a supply chain, they put that mark on, and then it's sent to the consumer, that product, and then from that we ensure a healthy forest forever. So the idea is that it's a continual chain. Okay? Certification is primarily about providing objective evidence of sustainable forest management. Sustainable forest management. So you want proof so that the consumer can feel good that they're not buying wood from some place in the world where they're just taking the trees and then leaving a mess behind. And the whole idea behind it is that it's like a financial audit. So the independent experts verify if the company is meeting its criteria of having sustainable production. Now, reasons for forest protection. There's many reasons, and one of the reasons why it's needed all around the world is we want to protect millions of hectares of forest. And so there's millions of hectares of forest to protect. And when you look at Canada, has the largest area of protected forests in the world. So currently we're one of the most aggressive in making sure that our forests are certified. We have nothing to hide. We do good forestry in Canada, and we're quite proud of that. And you can see the other countries that follow behind and are catching up in their certification. But we would have the most number of hectares, obviously, because we are one of the largest nations in the world with trees. So, a very important thing for us to note is that we have the largest percentage of original forest cover than any other country in the world. So, when you consider that, the largest percentage, and when you look at that, we have about 90%, and the next country over that has original forest, and this is a little bit dated, this data, but is Sweden. But let's face it, Sweden is incredibly small compared to Canada, maybe the size of Ontario, portion of Ontario. So percentage-wise, it looks very impressive, but the actual amount of forest that is original is very small when you compare it to the size of Canada. If you want an equivalent to Canada, you would look at Russia. Sweden, Finland, Germany, all very small, while Russia, Brazil, those are the ones we really have to watch for the future to ensure that we have quality forests around the globe. Currently only about, it's growing, but right now it's about 10% of the world's forest is certified, and Canada has taken the initiative to certify 40%. Has 40% of all global certifications. And this diagram illustrates that fact here, that we have certainly jumped on the bandwagon, the good bandwagon of making sure that we are recognized that our forests are good. And you can appreciate why we did it so quick. We are an exporting nation, and we have to tell the world's consumers, that we are doing a good job. Buy our wood because we are doing a good job in taking care of our forest. Otherwise, consumers could go another direction, and that's always a concern. So in Canada, sustainable forest management, by the way, is what this here means. Okay. Sustainable forest management, and this is a little dated but not bad, but it gives you an idea how companies this means all the certifications, and keep in mind that these certifications, I'll explain them in a minute, but companies can have more than one certification at a time. These are all separate certifications, and each one approaches it slightly different. So a lot of information here, and well, let's just kind of plow through it, and we'll talk about it along the way. So the total land area of Canada, and we have to look at it from a Canadian perspective, not a provincial perspective, is 927 million hectares, close to a billion. Okay, and the amount of forest that's there we have in Canada is 417 million hectares. Fair bit. Only 1/4 of Canada's forests are managed for commercial. Only 1/4 of Canada's forests are managed for commercial use. So that gives you an idea. So in actual fact, we are managing under the umbrella of forestry 119 million hectares out of the 1,417 million hectares of forest, which is part of the total land mass of 927 million hectares for the whole country. So you can see how it's coming down. Okay, and then Canada, and I've mentioned this lots of times, Canada harvests less than 1% of its total forest. Okay, Canada has many areas protected. It has 83 million hectares of forest, of legally protected lands, and another 32 million are included on top of that. And so many of our forests have areas that are protected, and that's good. It's good to protect these natural areas for the future, so they can go through forest ecology we talked about. They go through the course of their lives, fall apart naturally, and go through the stages of development. And now the next one is more than half of Canada's forests are naturally reforested. Here's a very important thing for a forest tech to know, that we don't plant everything we cut. We rely on natural reforestation for more than half. The planting operation represents 600 million seedlings per year. That's a lot of trees. Okay, and what is planted in Canada? About 30 different species of trees are used in replanting, but to be honest, that's a little bit of I wouldn't call that. Really, it really boils down to more like the two kinds of pine: jack pine, lodgepole pine, spruce, and then hemlock, Douglas fir, and some major species like that. Where really we don't spend 30 different species, not too often. More southern areas we would. So there are 4 types of certification, and I just want to show you this graph here. And this graph here is available through forest management using GIS in the lecture. I look for the certification PowerPoint, and you can see here that the colors, we have different certifications across the province, and so it gives you an idea, anyways, these colors, and I want you to explore that a little later. I'm just kind of bouncing around in there right now, but what I'd like you to do is understand that there are different types of certification, and take a look at especially Ontario. Now there are 4 types of certification. There is the CSA, and the Canadian Standards Association certification, the Forest Stewardship Council certification, Sustainable Forest Initiative certification, and the ISO, International Standards Organization. So we're just going to walk through these now so you get a better idea. And so first one we're going to look at is the CSA, and what the CSA approach is, and you know that everything from light bulbs to parts of cars are CSA approved, and so can forests be approved. And the CSA standard has a stringent public participation requirement, And what the companies have to do, which are involved with forestry, they must respect the Sustainable Forest Management Initiative that is required for across the country and at local levels. Once a company gets approved and recognized for this type of certification, their wood and products would have this particular stamp on it. The SFI, the Sustainable Forest Initiative, it was started out of the States, and it was developed in the USA, where the vast majority of the lands are privately owned. Therefore, really the desire to have public input is not there. So it's more private private lands, large tracts of lands that are managed, and then so this was derived out of the States. The big one that I'm going to spend some time on because it's easy to understand and it is growing more and more in popularity is FSC, which is Forest Stewardship Council. One of the requirements I want you to do is to watch this video. This video is excellent, and it really does a nice job showing Canadian perspective.
Who cares about the forest? Funny that snail mail is what woke me. Well, that and my bookkeeper saying, "Do you really have to kill so many trees?" And of course this email. How can you call yourself an environmentalist if you print on dead trees?
So I'm going to leave it there, and it's a great video. I really encourage you to watch that. There will be components on it for the module, and it really does a nice job of explaining what the heck the reasons for certification. It's just excellent. So that's the Forest Stewardship Council, and it was founded in 1993 and has been growing ever since, and it is very, very measurable as far as its focus and objectives, and we're going to go through that now. So the Forest Stewardship Council, its goal is to promote environmentally friendly, socially beneficial, and economically viable management of the world's forests. So this is all around the world, and this is one company, Westwind, which is out of between Algonquin Park and Perry Sound, and they are they have the FSC approved stamp. And what do? They do tree planting, harvesting, tree marking, which you're going to learn, and they do inspection reports like compliance reports, and they do all these things in that area, and they do it all to meet this requirement so that their forest is certified. And how does that happen? I'm going to go through now the 10 principles that make a particular area, forest area, a legitimate certified forest under the FSC. So let's go through them one by one. The first one is that you have to comply with the laws of the land, with laws and FSC principles. So what they're talking about here is forest management shall respect all applicable laws of the country in which they occur and international treaties and agreements to which the country is signed on to, and comply with all FSC principles and criteria. So what this all means is, if you want to say, think of it in a nutshell, is that are you, the person who's in charge of that forest, responsible for that forest, following the laws that were made to ensure good forestry? If not, then you've broken principle number 1. And again, in Canada, you go, well, of course we would. Well, yeah, in Canada it's a little easier. You know, we have minor things we could maybe break the laws with, which are important to us yet. For example, a harvesting machine goes beyond the boundaries and goes into an AOC area. then you have not met the requirements, and then there could be consequences. But more serious ones of blatant and overcutting and that, as may be seen in other countries, is not one that we have a concern with. The second issue is tenure and the use and rights and responsibility. What that means is that if you imagine the forest like your house, I mean a house that you're going to rent. What the idea is that if you're going to rent a house for a long time and then you want to put some money into it and make sure that it's, that it's in good shape, you need to be assured of that there's long-term tenure. So it isn't just, you got the house for 3 months, and then why would you invest into that house? So same with forestry. You want to ensure that there's long-term tenure, like 20 years, and that you have insurance that that land can be used for forestry purposes, and it needs to be documented that this is the case and legally established. And then in Ontario, under the Crown Forest Sustainability Act, we have SFLs to ensure that. The third point is that, interestingly enough, Forest Stewardship Council and the other ones, it's not just a focus about the trees. Whoops, that was not what I wanted to do. But it's also the idea of taking care of people. So the indigenous people's rights all around the world is that it has been recognized that the legal and customary rights of indigenous peoples to own, use, and manage their lands, territories, and resources shall be recognized and respected. And we have that inside our management plans and part of the Crown Forest Sustainability Act, that the indigenous people are part of the public process, public consultation, and part of the management of public lands. Has it worked at all times? To be honest, I would say no, but we're moving ahead on this particular one. The next one is an interesting one, is the whole idea of Principle 4 is about community relations and workers' rights. So forest management operations shall maintain or enhance the long-term social and economic well-being of forest workers and local communities. And what I want to stress here, local communities, you have to appreciate there's many, I think there's like 250 communities across Canada where forestry is the exclusive industry in town. And so what this is saying, if you want to say in layman's language, we don't permit fly-by-night operations. We want long-term commitment for the forest workers and those communities where they live in, so that it becomes, so it's just the sustainable element of FSC is not just the trees, but the communities and the people who work there, which is really nice to see. So benefits from the forest is the next one. Principle 5. Forest management operations shall encourage the efficient use of the forests, and here's what I want to stress: multiple products and services to ensure economic viability and wide range of environmental and social benefits. In other words, the forest does not belong to a forest company, but around the world, that to be called FSC, you have to ensure that there's more, that the opportunity for multiple products and services can be derived from the same forest. Hunting, tourism, recreation, medicinal plants, whatever the case may be, but multiple products, not just timber, are coming out of that forest. The next one is environmental impact, and I think this one we all are kind of aware of. Forest management shall conserve biological diversity and its associated values. And for example, water resources, which are becoming ever so rare, soils, unique and fragile ecosystems, and landscapes on a grander scale, right? And so doing, maintain the ecological functions and the integrity of the forest. So we've got to take care of everything as we take care of the trees in the forest. And because it's all part of being sustainable, is everything, people and the entire forest ecosystem. Okay, principle number 7. So principle number 7 is that you need a management plan. Well, in some countries that might be a novel idea, but in Canada, as I've told you in the forest management, our Crown Forest Sustainability Act in Ontario certainly provides an excellent example of what that is. And what does a good management plan have? It has objectives, and a means of achieving them shall be clearly stated. So it isn't just a pipe dream, but actually make it happen. And we already do that. So that's an easy one. The next one, and you folks have done some of this already when you did your compliance reports and free to grow and your pre-harvest assessment, is that we need to monitor and assess. In other words, you just can't build a road, go in there, cut some trees down, and plunk some trees in the ground and say that's good enough. You have to track what's happening and make sure that you're conducting good forestry management. And so you have to assess the condition of the forest. You have to assess the yield of forest products. You have to keep check of the chain of custody, and you have to also check the management activities that are occurring, everything along the whole way, not just the harvesting. And you have to recognize the social impacts and environmental. So lots to monitor and assess if you want to have this certification, which is proper, because that means you know what you're. If you don't take inventory of what you're doing, how the heck can you improve? We have no baseline. Okay, the next one is maintenance of high conservation value forests. Around the world, more and more forests are becoming rare. Rare forests is becoming more prevalent because, well, our populations around the world increasing, putting great pressure on our forest, and our job is to make sure that we protect our forest, so that once we identify these rare types of forests, which in our case would be many of those forests which have those species at risk identified. That's what a lot of ours are, wherever there's species at risk. So conservation value forests are quite often old growth forests, but also sometimes specific species in non-old growth forests. The last one is an interesting one, and it's about plantations. You think that plantations are the thing that everybody would want, but it's something that should be noticed that while plantations can provide an array of social and economic benefits and can contribute to satisfying the world's need for forest products, they should complement the management of and reduce pressures on and promote the restoration and conservation of natural forêt, which might be French, I don't know, but forest is what it's supposed to say. So what this is saying is, like all the red pine around here, and when I wrote the management plan for the city of Kawartha Lakes, and there's how many hectares? 2,000 hectares of red pine. We wanted that forest eventually to get FSC approval, and one of the criteria we wrote into the plan is that Yes, there are red pine plantations here, but what we're going to do is promote the restoration of natural forests so they come back. So in other words, the idea is kind of like plantations are great because they take the pressure off the natural forest. To give you a kind of a, well, if you look at cows, beef cattle, which are inside a restricted area, obviously take the hunting pressure of the the wildlife out there for meat products, and that's important. But that does not mean we should only have cows. We need to protect the wildlife. And this is the same idea, but with the forest ecosystem. We need plantations to address the ever-increasing world's needs, but we have to respect the fact that we need to not make everything into a plantation. We need to maintain those wild natural forests. Very, very important point. So in Canada, we have 150 million hectares of forest that's certified, and there you can see the different certification processes that are out there. So again, what is the purpose of the benefits gained or expected from certification? Let's go through them just one more time. It gives you better planning because you have to plan to be a sustainable forest management type of company. You maintain the existing markets. In other words, where you sell your wood, people will go, yeah, I'll buy wood from you or wood products because you're sustainable. Your community relations certainly improves because you take care of your forest and the people that work there. The employees are impressed and have some pride that this company does care about the forest. Improved NGO, okay, and non-governmental environmental non-governmental organizations like Sierra Club and so on will certainly respect you more if you have this third-party certification. Governments certainly will respect you more if you have this type of certification and recognize that you're doing a good job officially. You will have more market access and improved Aboriginal relations because you have worked through the process. So there's many benefits to moving forward with certification, and many companies have moved certainly that way. One of the things I'd like you to do for homework also, besides that first video, is watch these different videos. And again, these are available through Forest Management Using GIS, lectures, and you can see the PowerPoint presentation there. Thank you.